From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more Corner Pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com. Visit them off Appalachia Parkway. You can place your order online, run right in, grab it, savor it. Savor it. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code Warchant30. Hit it. The thumbs up button, everybody. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, maybe even the website, Warchant30. Again, the promo code. No preamble. Let's get right to it. One of those busy days as we come out of the weekend. Thank you for bearing with us, everybody. Selection Monday in the books. Tom's here, everybody. It's Tuesday. Tom returns triumphantly. We'll go to you first, Tom. Corey's here as well, everybody. Promise. Florida State draws a 3 seed in the Auburn Regional, UCLA the 2 seed, and then SELA the 4 seed, Southeastern Louisiana for those who aren't from the Deep South. Have we been living a lie, Tom Lang? Florida State was one of the last 4 in, according to Kendall Rogers over at D1 Baseball. That shook me to my core. I feel like I've been living a lie this whole season, thinking that maybe they've got something special in them. Who knows? It could happen, but did that affect your sort of perspective at all of what this team has been and can be?
No, it didn't. If you go inside college baseball a little bit, the ACC doesn't have representation on the selection committee, so I think that impacts a few things. I know that NC State Wolfpack fans are certainly talking about that today, given that they were held out and Ole Miss made it in, and maybe the resume was stronger for NC State. I just think that this is a weird team that ran really hot and ran really cold. It got cold at the end. But if you look at the strength of the schedule for this entire season, that was one of the differentiators that ensured that Florida State made the field of 64. They are who I think they are, which is they're hot and cold. If they get red hot this upcoming weekend in Auburn, they can certainly advance. But the trend right now says that this is a group that can't even get the starting pitching that you've come to expect, or certainly we expected in the preseason. We'll see what they are moving forward, but it would not surprise me if they go 0-2 and Q. It would not surprise me if they got to the final game this weekend in Auburn. That's kind of who they are. They're not special, but they're not terrible either.
44 in a row, boys. Yeah, that is true, right? I guess we buried the lead on that. I mean, that's the good news of it, right? 44th straight regional appearance for Florida State, 59th overall, second behind Texas, and they're 61. Next season, if everything goes according to plan, they will have the record for most consecutive regional appearances. Corey, I don't try to make a habit of it. I just wasn't able to read your column in time because I was driving back up. But what do you think about this? Does it affect what you think about their ceiling, their floor, etc.?
No, it wasn't a column. It's just a straight news story. I do that sometimes. Sometimes,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Edward R. Murrow. I'm not always talking about who was the senator, the guy that thought everybody was communist. McCarthy. Yeah, I'm not always opinionated about McCarthyism like Edward R. Murrow was that one time. Sometimes I keep it straight. And I think that's about a 3 seed is what we thought. I think it's outlandish that they were one of the last 4 in when you think about who they beat in the schedule they had. That to me is a little bizarre. And I think Meat thought the same thing. He didn't really want to talk about it on Monday. He just said, yeah, whatever. He's like, we're one of the last 4 in and he goes, in Dallas Baptist. And he's like, oh, whatever. We're concentrating on UCLA. But you think of all the teams they beat that are in the tournament, TCU, they beat it. They won a series from them. Miami, they won a series from them. They beat Florida. They beat Georgia Southern, who's a host. They beat Virginia. They beat a lot of good teams. And I know they had struggles. And clearly, if you've listened to this show, you know what I think of this team. But it's just, it goes to like not having any representation in that committee, and that varies. Like it cycles. It comes in cycles. Like sometimes they do have a representative. It just makes no sense that he was flabbergasted that NC State didn't get in, and rightfully so. I mean, that was just crazy that they didn't get in, considering what their overall resume was. But Florida State is in. Like Tom said, the thing that worries me the most about this regional for them is, you can't count on the starting pitching anymore. Messick doesn't strike anybody out. Hubbard hasn't been into the 7th inning. I think he's been in the 7th inning once in the last 7 weeks. So you just don't have the strong starting pitching you thought you had. But other than that, this team is what we thought they were. And the problem is maybe not the best matchup with UCLA, because Florida State doesn't hit good pitching typically, and UCLA always has good pitching and plays really good defense. So it'll be interesting, but you hope maybe it's an advantage UCLA playing at whatever that would be, 10 o'clock their time, a.m., maybe you have an advantage just body clock wise. But Florida State's playing at noon. I would hope they don't pitch Messick. That kid cannot pitch in the daytime. I'd save him for the night game against Auburn if you get there, and then just go from there.
Okay, we'll talk more about that on the second half of the show with Michael Langston coming up. Now that we do have Tom here, it is Tuesday, 2 with Tom, so let's pivot to football here. Tom, you've been keeping everything active and plentiful on the YouTube page for Warchant TV with a lot of these off-season reports, rating the room. I think we maybe asked you last time, but just looking at these position groups further in depth, I think defensive tackle and linebacker were some of the ones that you dived into last week. And if you want to take it there, maybe the signing of our guy, Manuel from Charlotte, does that change anything you think about the depth on the offensive line, what you feel what they can possibly be in 2022, or take it from there, Tom? You lead the way, my friend.
Yeah, sure. Well, with the offensive line, I'll start there. Obviously, if you could have gotten a really good tackle, that would have been the first need for the offensive line this offseason. But I've been one that's pounding the desk saying any offensive lineman, any position, if you can get a floor raiser, go get him. If you have a solution at guard, I think the natural place after spring practice that we're looking at is right guard. If you could put somebody there, then you have a Bless Harris, Darius Washington battle at right tackle going into fall camp. It's a floor-raising move for FSU, so I certainly like that. It stabilizes things a little bit better, and if one of the true freshmen emerges by the middle of the season, you've got depth from that particular source. Bryson Estes was somebody that of the best of the rest, and I don't know that there's a lot of the rest in the offensive line. I thought maybe he could be an emergency player in the interior. If Thomas Schrader gets healthy, maybe he could be another guy that's in the mix that gets your depth to about 7 or 8 players on the O-line. But they needed another body, and they might need another one if there's a graduate transfer that we don't know about in the weeks to come. I would look again at the offensive line. But for the videos that I did last week on defense, there was a big exhale with defensive tackle. That was one position that's not like the others. You're like, wow, look at this. You've got 4 or 5 legitimate options. This is a great video. I can't believe it. I'm already 5 minutes into it, and I'm not struggling to come up with superlatives for some of the guys that are going to be in the mix. That's a group that's going to be the anchor of this defense. And then also at linebacker, if Kalen DeLoach, and I got into a conversation on the boards last week regarding Kalen DeLoach, if he takes a similar jump from the 12th game of last year to maybe the middle of September in this upcoming season, then he might be a really, really good player, because the development you saw over the course of the 2021 season was for real from Kalen DeLoach. So, if you add that to Tatum Bethune, who is going to be a plug-and-play starter, then you might really like your top 2 at linebacker in the immediate term. But in general, we'll do the defensive backs video this week. That's upcoming on Warchant TV. If you have not done so already, head to Warchant TV, hit subscribe. It's completely free. We really appreciate the support. This is a group that the starting line on the depth chart is a lot better than it was 2 or 3 years ago. The question is, how many groups do you like the depth of on the second line of the 2 deep? Not that many, but defensive tackle Aslan and Corey certainly is one of them.
Tom, one other thing about Dimitri Emanuel, as gosh, I didn't realize I was shifting through all these screens in the background. You guys are probably totally dizzy from everything. Do we think guard because he's not 6'4"? I mean, I'm just looking at 2019, the one season that he was with Alex Atkins, and he played a lot of right tackle. I mean, I think he started, it looks like 9 if my math isn't off. That season, but it does seem like the predominant sort of wisdom is that he's probably going to play on the interior. Is there anything that maybe you've seen from him, or is it game logs or game film that we think guard, or is it just simply just the height and playing in this level of competition?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just, filling in the blanks, because I know what I've seen with my own eyes with Darius Washington and Bless Harris, and I didn't see a starting guard out of those two. So it's more about what has he brought in to fill in the gap for. This is a versatile player. I trust Alex Atkins' assessment of him. If he couldn't play, he wouldn't be here, because you've got somebody who is intimately, he knows what Dimitri Emanuel is all about. And maybe, we get into week 2 of fall camp and my mind has changed and I see something out of Darius Washington or Harris that says that dude can play guard, and then Emanuel can be a tackle for you. But, just surface level understanding of what he is, combined with watching almost every rep on the offensive line in spring practice, I think the need's at guard. So unless one of those 2 guys that play right tackle right now for Florida State transforms their body or gets a whole lot better at guard, I think that's where the biggest need is, and I think that's where Emanuel's going to fit in.
And it's such an advantage too, Tom, right? When you talk about, you probably want him to start at guard, but the versatility is a really big deal. Again, we're not talking about a Walter Jones or a Jamie Dukes, a guy that can be a Jamie Dukes at guard or a Walter Jones at tackle, an All-American. We're not talking about a guy like that necessarily, but maybe he's a backup at two different positions and a good one. Like maybe he doesn't beat out Darius Washington at guard, and maybe Bless Harris does beat him out at tackle, or whatever those battles are. You have a guy that when somebody gets hurt on the offensive line, the mixing and matching becomes, it's not so dire. It's like, oh God, we got to throw him in there. Oh boy, it's not going to be like that. Like this kid, can play, and he's not going to embarrass you. And he's played Clemson before. And the screen that Aslan just had up unknowingly, where we were looking at his grades against Clemson in 2019, he had a pass blocking grade against them of like 81. And he was playing guard then, but then he had other games later that year at tackle where he graded out in the 80s at pass blocking, or high 70s anyway. So again, it's PFF. It's not the end all be all, but he wasn't embarrassing himself against some better teams. And I just think that bodes really well, man, that you have a guy that you're confident. And now you have, if you throw Maurice Smith, Caden Lyles in there, one of those guys is going to be a backup. Then, Darius Washington, Bless Harris, Emmanuel, one of these guys is probably going to be a backup. You feel good now about 7 dudes. Like you're going to have at least 2 backups with a lot of experience, and not Brady Scott experience. God, I love you, Brady. I hope you have a wonderful marriage. It was a really romantic gesture you did. But that Brady Scott wasn't a good college offensive lineman. He just wasn't. He couldn't play at this level effectively. Yeah, I think Corey, all these guys can.
Yeah, one of the things, just looking at the PFF grades, I'm a simple man, Corey, as you know. There's a lot more greens and yellows and light greens when you look at Emmanuel's PFF grades. And again, it isn't gospel, but I'm not going to watch every rep of Charlotte football. So I'm going to trust that these guys are close to accurate. And I do know that when you look at FSU's offensive linemen, you see a lot of yellows, oranges, and reds.
Yes.
So it's a pleasant sight to see that. And you're right. It's about raising the floor. And they're super bullish. They have been consistently about what Thomas Schrader could be in the fall, more so than I would be personally. But they know what they have in him potentially if he's a healthy player. So imagine if somebody like that enters the fold and maybe one of your 5 offensive linemen that you brought in the 2022 class could be an emergency role player for you. Then you're talking about 8 or 9 bodies on the offensive line that don't fall off like you're talking about, like a Wile E. Coyote Cliff in an old cartoon where you're just completely dead in the water before the ball's even kicked off if you've got a bad injury report on Thursday. That's where you want to be, and they're a lot closer because of Emmanuel, but they might have upwards of 7 or 8 legitimate options, which is something we haven't been able to say since like the championship team in 13 didn't even have that many options. They just got really lucky with a lack of injuries.
Yeah, those guys were healthy the whole year. And Aslan, if you scroll down on that page real quick, you look at Emmanuel's numbers, his season grades. Well, look where he graded. What year did he grade the highest? And it's not really all that close. It was
year with Alex Atkins.
At Charlotte, he had a 68.3 overall grade and 75.9 pass blocking, which is actually very good. 68.3 is pretty darn good, but the pass blocking is great. And that was the one year he played with Atkins. So again, maybe Atkins has the key to this kid, and he can really excel here in 2022. At either way, as Tom aptly named him, he's a floor raiser. The floor is a little higher because of him.
I don't want to ruin the franchise. It is Tuesdays 2 with Tom, but if I could push it to 3, Tom. Bless Harris, I think we've talked about him. I think maybe with some of the roundtable stuff with Jeff about Bless Harris being kind of like an X factor, at least on the offensive side of things. I mean, what is more valuable, to Corey's point about 2019 being the best season for Dimitri Emmanuel in Charlotte, and that was the one year that Alex Atkins was his O-line coach and offensive coordinator, same job he's got now in Tallahassee. What's more valuable, the 15 practices in spring that Bless Harris had 2 months ago, or 3 years ago, 11 games Saturday night, Saturday afternoon that Alex Atkins got with him?
That's a good question. I'm going to do what politicians do and answer it the way I'd like to answer it rather than directly answer your question. I'll tell you what's more surprising. I think what Bless Harris was able to do in spring was more surprising. Alex Atkins knows what he has in Dimitri Emmanuel. I'm sure he still has some connections with the staff down at Charlotte, so keeping tabs on who he is as a player, he's probably much more familiar. I don't think Bless Harris was brought in with the intent that he might work with the ones in certain situations. I'll keep it general, but I don't think they brought him in to do that. I thought they brought him in to maybe be a starter down the line and certainly be a backup now. But Bless, in my opinion, is pushing for starters reps right away. So To me, that's the more surprising thing. But both are a benefit to this group, because if you didn't have either of those dudes on campus, I think our discussion about the offensive line would sound a lot more desperate than it does. There's a pathway now with these two guys on campus. Beforehand, I don't know that there was a pathway to be a better offensive line than last year.
Well said. Tom Lang, you can hear more from him on the Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock on 93.3 FM in Tallahassee, as well as on the Warchant TV channel over on YouTube. Play more baseball coming from him and Jeff, I'm sure, in the coming days. Tom, thanks as always, man.
I'll beat you to the punch, Corey. I love you.
Ditto.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
We usually do it on Mondays, but we had the day off. So it's Tuesday. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Man, this is a fun one, Corey. Some excellence on display by Florida State athletes this past weekend in the Oval. If I can go first, if you don't mind. Shout out to the relay team. That was like my favorite thing to do in field day. Maybe second to tug of war. The 4x100 team, shout out to Taylor Banks, Amir Willis, Dondre Swint, and Jovan Martin. 38.51. It was cold. It was wet. That doesn't matter. That is the second fastest in the season in the entire nation. It's a meet record, and it's also the second fastest in FSU's all-time list in their history. So shout out to the relay team getting it done. Who'd you got, Corey?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it on the track. And to the guy that is quickly maybe becoming, I don't know, man, he can maybe stake a claim as the best that's ever been at Florida State in his discipline. And we all know about Ngoni Makusha, right, Aslan? I'm not going through that again.
Right.
But Trey Cunningham won his East Regional. And according to the United States, I'm gonna guess what this acronym is. It's USTFCCCA. I'm going to say the United States Track and Field Cross Country Association. I don't know what that third C could be. I assume the A is association. Anyway, that's a long way to say it. So he ran a 13.07 into a headwind of 1.5, which I know we're not all track aficionados. That's a pretty substantial headwind. It's on a wet track, and it's on a cold day in Bloomington, Indiana for some reason. And according to them, it's the fastest in world history into a headwind greater than 0.2 meters a second.
Let's go!
The fastest in world history, gang. I don't understand what's going on with this kid. We really do hope to have him on the show. We want to interview him. It's got to be an incredible backstory because this kid has been really good since he got here. But this last year and a half, he has taken off. He has become next level. And what he's doing now, like we just said, is historical. And when you watch these races, he's blowing these dudes away. If we do get him on the show, we need to send him some Zaxby's.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Give him a big Zax snack. Give him 3 of them. You know, for every national championship he wins, he gets a big Zax snack.
Do they give him medals? Dip the medal in some of the Zax sauce and then bite down on it. We'll take a photo.
Yeah, exactly. You see, they all bite onto their gold medals. Yeah, well, dip it in Zax sauce first and then bite on it. It's going to taste a little better.
Trey Cunningham, Taylor Banks, Amir Willis, Dondre Swint, Jovan Martin, the track standouts. Our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. All right, Corey, we're going to have Michael Langston coming up here in a few minutes talking about that Cruton. Busy weekend. Are you going to be here this weekend? Mega Camp's coming up, Corey. You don't want to miss the Mega Camp.
Well, no, I'm not going to be in Auburn either, though. I don't know if we're going to go to Auburn. We didn't go to Oxford last year for that regional.
We need you to go. You went to Athens, and then magic happened.
Well, but I was in Athens because it was going to be 11 Swan last game, and we needed to be there for that. So that was the reason we were in Athens. But you're right, it was a magical run, much to Stephanie's chagrin. But anyway, she got to go to Omaha, so she had a good time. But no, I'm going to be in Charleston for Brady's baseball tournament.
Oh, okay.
His last 13U baseball tournament in Charleston. It should be fun, cool city. Apparently a really cool park. We're going to be there for 4 nights. So yeah, looking forward to that. But I will not be at the mega camp, sadly.
Will you have spent more time in your life watching your son play baseball than Mike Martin Sr. did waste time during having to endure rain delays at Hauser in his career?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say I've probably watched Brady play. He's 13, so 120, 100. I've probably watched him play 180 baseball games. Maybe 2. We'll round up to 200 because there's some rec ball in there. And those are at least an hour and a half each?
Yeah.
So that's about 200 hour-and-a-half rain delays.
All right.
I think I got 11 beat. It's close though, right?
There we go. We got something topped on them. But anyhow, bringing it back to baseball then. So we don't know if we're going to be in Auburn or not. Somebody actually asked me if I wanted to go up. They're going up from Gainesville, and they're getting like an Airbnb. Like, you want to hop in? I'm like, I don't know.
You should go, buddy. What else are you going to do?
I don't know.
Take one for the team.
I'd go. I'll go. I'd love to go cover it, man. I want to see this whole thing through. I don't. If Florida State was hosting,
and then if they win, if they win, where they would go? Probably
Corvallis.
Yeah. Don't know if we're making that trip either, honestly. Because here's the thing: if they go to Corvallis and lose, do we have to be there for them to have lost another super regional? But if they win, then they're going to Omaha, and we'll definitely be there for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if we have to necessarily go to a super regional across the country. But yeah, man, Auburn's a 3-hour ride. It'd be good. It'd be a noon game. You'll be done by 4 o'clock. You can go hit the town. Yeah. I think they have a good fishing spot there in Auburn or some other stuff. You can go roll the tree. Do whatever you want. If Florida State wins, will you go roll that tree? Just a lone toilet paper guy. Just buy a package of toilet paper.
Yeah. All right. I'll see what I can do about it. I'm glad you saved it. I really did wish I would have started it off with Tom about celebrating the fact that this is not a middling baseball program, everybody. This is 44 consecutive years they've made it to the NCAA tournament. 44 straight. That ties the record. If things go well, as we said, next season that would leave them alone atop this sort of distinction. But the fact they were a last four in kind of, for me, I guess that's the way I look at life, soured me a little bit, Corey. I hate talking about if they go 0-2 because let it play out. They might win this regional. First off, if I was Auburn, I'd be pissed off. You gave me UCLA and Florida State in my regional. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that if Florida State was hosting, we had UCLA and Auburn coming to us, we would not be happy about that. It's a bit of a bummer, obviously. But, I mean, this is not a middling program. If they don't get out of this regional, what sort of conversations do we have? I mean, is some of the stuff that we talked about last week about do you renew a contract, do you extend a contract, or do you trust the process and realize that this guy was part of a good portion of these 44 straight appearances and just think that, you're going to get the hitting right, even though you're going to probably lose some of the pitching next year too? Or should we not go down this? I don't want to go down this road yet either, but it's Tuesday and it's the middle of May. Are we in jeopardy of being a middling program then? If we can't even get through regionals. I mean, I know we made it to a regional, but if we're the last four in Oxford, I don't know if we were a 2 or 3 seed, but if we can't make it through regionals, this would be 2 years in a row. I mean, 2020 there was no tournament, so we were not going to put that on him. Is that a trend? Is that trajectory, or is it too soon to make those kind of assertions about Mike Martin Jr. in this program?
No, man, honestly, I'm concerned about the regular season. As a baseball fan, I understand how luck of the draw the postseason can be. I mean, there is a good chance Tennessee does not win the national championship this year, and they are incredible. It is just really hard to beat good teams, a bunch of good teams in the postseason. It just is, especially when you don't get 4 out of 7 like the Dodgers get. The Volunteers, they could lose twice and they're done, and they have more wins than anybody has ever had going into the NCAA tournament. This Tennessee team is unbelievable. They are the favorites to win the national championship, but, I mean, I'd still bet the field just because it's really hard, even for the really good teams. So my point being, I'm not really all that worried about, this team's not winning the national championship. Even if they sneak into Omaha, this was not a good regular season, and that's kind of how I judge it. There have been seasons where the program was in great shape, and they had great teams, and they lost in the postseason, and I still felt okay. Okay, man, they were top 10 all year. Awesome. They had a good team and got a bit unlucky, or they just didn't play well those last two. Like the Florida State softball team. That's happened. I don't think the Florida State softball team is in a worse place than they were last year just because they didn't make the World Series. They had an incredible regular season. My point being, so that's how I kind of look at baseball. So this one, I'm concerned this is the 3rd year in a row where they've been a 3 seed. I mean, they are limping into these tournaments. It used to be what teams will Florida State be hosting? What national seed will they be? Now it's where are they going to be sent? They're a 3 seed. They were the last 4 in, which I think is a joke. They should have been. I don't know that they were in. They should not have been in jeopardy of not making the tournament with their resume. But even still, they were the last 4 in. In 19, when they made it to Omaha, they were one of the last 4 in. So now you're a middling. To me, that's middling. That's not anything. That's just not a great program. And 19 kind of covered up some warts because they got hot for 2 weeks. But that was not a good baseball team. That was an underachieving baseball team all year that exceeded expectations in the postseason. And if this one does that again, that still does not make me feel great about 2023. Like there needs to be a really significant uptick of talent. There just has to. This hitting worries me and it concerns me. And both worries and concerns, alarms. I'll use all of the words, everyone. It's alarms me.
Perilous.
Yeah. So that's what that to me, what happens in Auburn, whether they even win the regional or not, yeah, that's a good weekend. But this has not been a good team. This has not been a good season by Florida State standards. And that has to, so that's what a run to Omaha doesn't change my worry about the program.
Okay.
And I go into next year with some real skepticism about where it is in the state, where it is in the country, where it is in the conference. That's what I worry about because it has been when you take 19 into account, it has been that team limped into the tournament, barely got in. 2021 was on the road. 2022 was one of the last 4 in. So, what is this team right now? It's a bubble team. And Florida State baseball should not be a bubble team. Now, they went through a transition. They went through COVID, like everybody else, through COVID, not through the transition. And he's trying to reshape this roster. But it has not been it's just not been a good offense all year, although I think they've been better lately. And I think I just don't think they've done a great job as a coaching staff with the pieces of this team, putting the pieces of this team together. And that happens sometimes. It just takes a while, or sometimes you never figure out the pieces. But next year, I got to see some improvement, man. I don't want to be here at the last day of May talking about barely getting into the tournament again. Now, it would be 45 in a row, which is incredible. That would be an all-time record. Right now, they've tied it. It is a remarkable run. And yes, they are a victim of their own success because it is harder and harder to even get to the postseason in college baseball. But, man, this is Florida State, and they cannot be happy and satisfied no matter what they do these next 2 weekends with what happened the previous 4 months. That, to me, those from February to May, late May, has to get better. It just has to. That's Florida State, man. You should be winning 40 games. You should be challenging for ACC titles. You should be challenging for top 8 national seeds. And you're on the road at an SEC team now for the 3rd tournament in a row. And that concerns me and worries me because also you're losing some really good talent off this team. And then I'm genuinely wondering, okay, what are they going to be next year? Yeah, you got 2 good freshman hitters. That's not enough to get to the tournament. No. And you got Wyatt Crowell, who's really good, and Carson Montgomery, who might be. But you got a ton of question marks on that pitching staff. Your 2 horses aren't coming back. Your 1 horse and your 1 sort of horse aren't coming back. And you just don't know what you have. Ross Dunn could be good. Montgomery could be good. Wyatt Crowell is good. But other than that, you don't know what you have as a pitching staff. So there's a lot of question marks. And whatever happens these next 2 weeks, don't really change my opinion of my concern level with this program. But he's also not on the hot seat.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I liked everything you said in the last sentence. I don't know. I mean,
well, he's not going to be. Look, man, he's not going to be fired after getting to the tournament for the.
No.
He's been 2 years here. He's made the tournament both times. But he expects more clearly, and I think the administration needs to expect more. You got it. But hey, man, he's also like the 3rd lowest paid coach in the conference.
Yeah. So
I know people want more. But, you're not going to go hire the guy from Louisville. You just don't pay that kind of money. And, yeah, so, I mean, you're kind of – I think 2023 is a very, very big year for Mike Martin Jr. because if they middle around and screw around again, like you said, I don't know what those contract talks are going to be like.
The good news is UCLA's batting average is 133rd in the nation. They're batting .278 as a team, and they're 146th in scoring at 6.4 runs per game. Bad news is that Florida State is batting .263, which is in the 200s, and they're scoring less than 6 runs a game, which is 209 in the nation. And UCLA is coming off a nice little run in the Pac-12 tournament. They fell short, I think, in the championship game against Oregon State, but they lost their first game against Cal, which Florida State did beat Cal in a series. And then they hung 14 runs on Washington, played Cal later on in the tournament and hung 9 on them, put 25 runs on Oregon State in 10 innings. And then lost.
Did you see that game?
No, but I saw the box. And then they lost 8-7 to Oregon State. So
that game was 25-22.
Yeah.
So I wonder what if you take that one game away, that's impossible. I wonder what their ERA is. It probably lowers by a third of a run. 22 runs in one game and you won is crazy.
And that's just a weird program, man. John Savage, UCLA, they just kind of quietly show up to regionals and create havoc.
Well, and Meat talked about them. They are pitching and defense. They don't have any electric bats. Not that Florida State does either. This year, they don't even really seem to have a dominant starter, but they got a really dominant reliever. They've got a bunch of good relievers. They steal a lot of bases. I think they've stolen 72 bases. And the craziest stat is they've only given up 21 bases, and they've thrown out 17. Like, opposing runners are 21 out of 38 against them. So they must have a catcher with a hose. But he's like, because we talked to him right after the bracket was released, and he's like, well, of course he hadn't watched UCLA play this year, and he didn't know anything about him. He's like, but I can guess. He's like, they're going to be a John Savage team. He's a pitching-oriented guy. They play great defense typically, and they run the bases. They throw over to first a lot. They kind of slow up the game. And they'll bunt, and they beat you with pitching, defense, and base running, and not a lot of. They put a lot of I think they put most of their money into their arms, and not the bats necessarily. So they're always like that. I mean, this is a program that had Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole on the same team, and didn't make it out of regionals, which is incredible. They were like the 3 seed too. They had a really rough year, and with those two dudes who were like I think the first 2 picks in the draft, or 1 and 3 or something. They didn't even make it out of regionals with those 2 arms. So they're never a great hitting team. A lot of people listening to this remember Scott Seitz shut them down in Omaha. And Seitz certainly wasn't Garrett Cole. But they win games 4-2 a lot. They win games 5-3. They win close games. Florida State has struggled in close games. So, yeah, it's not a great matchup, but when you're a 3, you're not going to get a great matchup, Aslan.
This is true. And I do like Butch Thompson over at Auburn. He's a pitching-first kind of guy, too. So, maybe that's, if this is a gunfight, I like the gun we're bringing to it. I do like Parker Messick, even though the struggles have been chronicled here of late.
I really don't know, man. Meat was asked, and he said they weren't sure who they were going to start.
Yeah,
I think it's a big mistake to start Messick. I just do. I think he's better when there's more people in the stands. I don't know why he shouldn't be, but man, when he pitches in the afternoon, or if he pitches in front of not many people, he is not very good, and that needs to change because his whole minor league career is going to be a lot of them are going to be in front of 400 disinterested fans. He needs to figure out how to juice himself up when it's not a lot of people there and it's not under the lights. But he is, if you just went by what he does during the day, he is not even a good college pitcher. But at night, and again, maybe it's just complete happenstance, but I don't believe in that. I don't believe in just coincidence. There is something going on with his body clock where he will not be ready to pitch at noon on a Friday. And I would not throw him out there. I would start Ross Dunn before I started Messick, and I would save Messick in case you get to Auburn. Because the point is, it's not like you would be the guy. I know the counter to that is, okay, say Messick, you pitch Messick, you save Messick for Saturday against Auburn, but you lose the first game and now you have to pitch him against Southeast Louisiana. It's like, okay, but there's no guarantee he's the same guy pitching against UCLA that you think he is. And he's just not striking out anybody anymore. I'm not a believer in Parker Messick on a Friday afternoon at noon in front of 12 people at Auburn. I'm just not. I'm a much bigger believer in that kid on a Saturday night if they're playing Auburn in front of a packed house with something to prove, with a chip on his shoulder. And Bryce Hubbard, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it matters either way. You're either going to get a good performance or you're not. I don't think the crowd or the sun has any effect on that kid at all.
Fair. I don't know. Can you talk to Bryce Hubbard? Can you go to Bryce Hubbard and be like, hey, man, give us – I know you always want to give us as much as you can, obviously. You'd love to see him do a Will Zerzow and just go out there and pitch a complete game and help carry you to a win. But would it make it easier for him if you just kind of lay out, like, just get us 9 outs, man. Get us 9 outs, pitch clean, and then we're going to bring Wyatt in here and then coast the rest of the way as much as we can. Like, is there any kind of mental hurdle that maybe he's dealing with there that if he just knows he can go out and doesn't have to worry about navigating for 2 hours and just knows he's only got to go out there and throw 3 innings? Because I agree with you. I mean, it's a risk and a reward because, yeah, I mean, if you win game 1 with some sort of combination of Hubbard and Crowell or whomever, and then you put Parker Messick out there in a night game in Auburn against Auburn, and he shuts them down, man, you're feeling really, really good about yourself. I mean, you guys are flying high going to that championship game, and you've got 2 shots to advance the Super. So I do like it setting it up like that. And there's not a lot of good recent data on Parker doing well in the middle of the day. Like, is it worth going to Bryce and trying to just limit, I guess, what you really want to get out of him? Or is that capping something crazy?
Yeah, I wouldn't give him like a ceiling. I wouldn't be like, hey, get us 9 outs. I wouldn't tell him anything like that. I wouldn't change it up at all. I might go to Crowell, which I assume they do anyway on these Hubbard starts because he keeps coming in for him, and be like, hey man, be ready in the 4th. Yeah. Get yourself ready in the 4th or the 5th. But Crowell knows that anyway. Yeah. I think Hubbard's pitched. The last 2 outings he pitched 5 against Miami. I don't remember what he he pitched 1 against North Carolina, and then he pitched 4 in the ACC championship against Virginia. And then Crowell came in after the Virginia game and I think went the distance. And then he came in after the Miami game and I think maybe went the distance. So that's kind of what the plan is. And honestly, I mean, the only way you can win this regional is if, in my opinion, even if you pitch, I wouldn't trust Hubbard in that environment on a Saturday night, but I could be wrong. If he has his good stuff, he could shut them down. But I just think your best chance of winning the regional is Messick Saturday night against Auburn. I just think that's your best shot. And Hubbard/Crowell in an opener is a pretty not a bad combo to start with. And then so if I'm the coach, that's what I'm doing. I'm going Hubbard Crowell because it's not like you're throwing out I don't know, man, Bo Meister. Right. Hubbard's been good this year. He's had moments, but he's been incredible. Mm-hmm. And Crowell's been great almost the last 3 months of the season. So it's not like you're throwing out some slappies to go try to – it's not like you're taking a huge gamble and saying, this is a real risk, but we're going to go with our number 5 starter because no, man, you're throwing your number 2 and you're throwing your best reliever right behind him. That is a good and that combo has won more games lately than Parker Messick has. By a lot. So I think that's your best get. I think that's your best bet, man. You go Hubbard Crowell in game 1, and then you hope Messick finds some magic in game 2, and that's your best shot of getting out of that regional. Then you're in the winner's bracket, and you've still got arms lined up. You could have Crowell going on Sunday. Again, you have Davis Hare, you have Montgomery, you have guys that can get you through 27 outs against Auburn on Sunday or Monday or whoever you face again. So yeah, I think it's a flip of the coin, man, honestly. And me personally, like as far as who gives you a better chance to win game 1, I think it's a flip of the coin. Hubbard/Crowell or Messick. It's a flip of the coin to me. But that Saturday night, it is not a flip of the coin. I think Messick could rise to the moment there. Maybe his last start of his career. I think that's your best option to try to. Are you trying to win game 1 or are you trying to win the whole thing? And if you're trying to win the whole regional, I think your best play is Hubbard, Crowell, then Messick in game 2.
So did Meat strike you as like the good kind of angry, like Rocky between rounds, I don't know, like 4 and 5 against Clubber Lang? Where it's like, he's not losing, he's getting mad.
No, man, come on. If you know anything about Rocky 3, he knocked out Clubber Lang in round 3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Come on, man. So he got mad in I think it was round 2 is when he kind of flipped the script. Yeah. That's, by the way, I don't understand why they made Rocky 3 the way they did, where they had never heard of like putting their gloves up and not taking a punch. I mean, why did they like Stallone's a boxing fan? Like legitimately, he's a big boxing fan. He did that reality show a decade or so ago. He loves boxing. Yeah. Why make it so completely asininedly, that's not a word, unbelievable. Like, he's literally he just has his hands by his nipples and keeps letting Mr. T hit him in the face. Like, clinch him up. Try to something. Quit letting him hit you in the face.
Come on, anyway, you're not so bad. You're not so bad. Come on.
Well, that's pretty good, man. Yeah. Hey, woman. We could just do our Rocky III impressions all day. So I don't even know how we got on to Rocky III. You were talking about setting him up.
Meat being upset. And,
I think
good kind of irritated.
To me, Meat sounded sick. So that may be something to keep an eye on. I don't know how mad he was. I think he was more mad about NC State, honestly. Yeah. And because it was a slap into the face to the conference. Like that team was an NCAA tournament team. And they did not get in, which is but hey, I guess better than NC State than you, better than Florida State. And man, do you think? And I was talking about the guys that were and Allison Posey, who was there at the press conference. What if Florida State doesn't win that 18-inning game against NC State?
Yeah. Is NC
State in and Florida State out? Like, is it really that fine a line in this dumb sport that one 18-inning game kept one team? Like, because if NC State wins that game, they win a series on the road against a relatively high RPI team. It's another conference win series. That certainly, I think, gets NC State in the field because that would have been another feather in the cap. And then maybe it takes Florida State out of the field. That's how narrow that gap is, man, which is just bizarre.
Or even that walk-off win against Georgia Southern, because that was a quality quad one, but that was a quality win from Florida State beating Georgia Southern. But yeah, because Florida, if you're the first four in and the last four out, I'm pretty sure NC State was on that line. Then yeah, I mean that game probably did swing you. You don't think about it. We don't think about it. I don't know if I'm sure he has to think about it in those moments about like that was a valuable win to hold on and win a series, a conference series. Now, will he know it's going to pay off in this sort of way? Probably not in the moment, but yeah, well, sorry.
But here's the thing. Do you think if Florida State wins at Florida instead of getting walked off, if they hold that lead, I think they had a lead in that game late. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just tied it. And then they beat Carolina in that series. Like Crowell doesn't give up the walk-off, and then they somehow win one of those next two games. So they win 3 of those 4 instead of losing those all 4. Does Florida State host? Don't you think they're a top 16 seed?
I mean, I didn't think North Carolina had that strong of a resume, but North Carolina sweeps us, wins the tournament, and they're a national seed almost.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what's so bizarre. One bad week would impact. Would you go from being one of the top 16 teams in the country to out of the tournament? With one bad week, 2 of them on walk-offs on the road against teams that are in the field, like against their host, like that's crazy to me. That because and maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm of the belief that if Florida State would have won 3 of 4 that last week, and I know they didn't, but if they'd have won 3 or 4 or even split, they're in the hosting conversation.
Yeah,
they probably don't host, but they're in the hosting conversation. Instead, they lose on 2 walk-offs, and they're almost out of the field. That's some goofy math they're doing with that selection committee. And again, this year, the ACC did not have a representative on the committee. A lot of other conferences did. It cycles back and forth. Like maybe next year ACC will have one, but this year they did not. Meat said that was pretty evident that they didn't have a representative on the committee. He could tell that was evident by the seedings and the Notre Dame not getting to host. Notre Dame having to go to Statesboro, which is just fun to think about. And then NC State not making the field, Florida State being the last 4 in. They clearly didn't have a voice for them championing their cause and their conference when they were in the committee. And then, Meat was like, yeah, and sometimes you get in there and there'll be somebody that's just over the top brash. He's loud, he's obnoxious, and he bullies other people into going with what he's saying. And there are other people that get, shy or clam up and don't argue, don't fight back, and that's how stuff like this happens. So, he goes, I don't know if there's a better way to do it, but he just, basically was saying that was a real shame and a travesty that NC State didn't get in.
Corey, on the way out, if I posted a photo of Ira and I captioned it "loyal," what would that mean?
Especially if there were rumors that he was
ESPN was coming after him,
going to ESPN.
Yeah.
To me, that would mean that he's loyal and he's staying he's staying with us. He's staying with the fine folks at Warchant.
Okay.
Or he's going to be a Marius Mims biographer. Guys, look, we got to laugh at each other, right? Sorry, Ira. Every couple weeks, I just want to. It's just funny. I think it's funny because obviously everybody knows Ira's awesome. He does great work. He's the reason Warchant is what it is for the most. I mean, Gene is, but then Ira's number 2. But yeah, sorry. Just I like to have fun. I like to poke fun.
Florida State softball coach Lonni Alameda allegedly. I don't want to say allegedly. That almost sounds like a crime, but I don't even say reportedly, but I guess there was some smoke out there that A&M, Texas A&M that is, might be kicking the tires on her to try to lure her to College Station.
It was certainly the talk on social media on late Monday afternoon, early evening. Yes.
Yeah. And then her first lieutenant, Travis Wilson, tweeted out the photo of her with loyal, all caps, as the only sort of caption to it. So,
I'm going to ask you this, Aslan.
Yeah.
What? And I know this is easy for me to say because I'm not being offered the money that's probably being offered to Lonni. Can you look up her salary real quick while I'm talking?
I'll try, sure.
But yeah, so Lonni clearly loves it here. She does. I mean, I've talked to her. She likes it. She really does. They're finally giving her a new video board that isn't just a big digital clock. It's actually going to have information on it. They are taking care of her. They did take care of her after she won the national championship. I think she bought like a Jaguar or something. She bought a really cool car. I remember that because she tweeted out a picture. But she makes good money here. Really good money in the world of softball coaches. Now, it's not the most money that a softball coach in the country makes, but it's really good money. Much like Mark Krikorian got offered a crazy contract. When you consider the money that's coming in, Florida State offered him in the $800,000 a year to coach soccer. Again, non-revenue or low-revenue sport. It is not a moneymaker. It just isn't. But they really did. Now, clearly, Krikorian thought differently, but they really did try to show their appreciation for the program he had built because he was getting paid, he was already getting paid a good substantial amount of money, and they were offering to pay him more. Lonni clearly has to be somewhere in that neighborhood. Do we know it yet, Aslan?
Oh, I thought you were going really well there. All right, Googling it, Corey, I did find that the term of the contract that started in 2021 goes until the end of the 2028 season, and it's like, what, $4.4 million.
Okay, yeah, and there's also, so that comes out annually somewhere in the neighborhood of $550,000, $600,000. Plus, she's got bonuses like, I think she got $10,000 because they won the ACC tournament. She got $20,000 because they were in a regional. So there's a $30,000 on top of that, and that's every year, and it keeps escalating. So anyway, the length of the contract, she's looking about $4.5 million. Say A&M comes and offers her $1.1 million a year for 5 years. So she's guaranteed to make $5.5 million in 5 years, or somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 to $5 million at Florida State for the next 7 years. So yes, it is more annual money at A&M, clearly. And Florida State can try to get close to it, but they cannot match A&M's money because they don't have A&M's money. But I hope Lonni understands. And, Travis Wilson tweeted out loyal, so we all think that's a good sign anyway. Man, do you want to go live in College Station? I mean, do you?
Because she's from Oklahoma, so, I mean, maybe there's a little...
I thought she was from California.
No, I think she's from Oklahoma. She cut her teeth out in California. I'll look that up. We should know. She's the best.
I'm looking at it right now. She graduated from Oak Ridge High School in El Dorado Hills, California. Then played in Oklahoma.
Okay.
She graduated from Oklahoma, but she's from California. Okay. So, yeah, okay, she lived in Norman. But, man, College Station's different. Yeah. And you have to know that. You have a great thing at Florida State. You live in a cool city. Everybody loves you here. You're just going to be another hired gun in College Station, man. This is just what they do. They go and get people that have won elsewhere and throw a lot of money at them and say, hey, fix this. But, hey, watch out for the tumbleweed and the prairie dogs because they're out here too, and they're scary. There's coyotes everywhere, Lonnie.
But they'll have a border collie with you, though. You'll have a border collie with you everywhere.
Yeah, you have to take pictures with that thing. There are no female cheerleaders. Not that that's a big deal to a softball coach, but all those male cheerleaders are weird. They have weird traditions. And they sway with each other. I just don't understand. Like, Jimbo made sense because he was just looking for he got a lot of money, too, a huge, substantial raise at the time. But also, He was looking to be gone from Florida State. Lonni, you got to, and he did not have a great thing here anymore. Lonni does, and you do. And this is a plea to her. Don't go. Go anywhere but Texas A&M, man. Like that, I just can't fathom Florida State losing another coach to that cow college. And understand, my girlfriend got her master's at A&M in oceanography. Go figure. You get an oceanography degree from College Station, but it's fine. It worked. It worked out for her. But yeah, man, that's just a weird place. It's College Station. You're in Tallahassee, and it's a cool place, and they will pay you.
It's not life-changing money, like you said. Though, I mean, you fleshed out the numbers.
What she's doing is life-changing money. Like how much? Yeah. Again, it's not my right. I get it. It's not my place to tell other people don't care about money. But if $600,000 a year in Tallahassee goes a long way, you are living a very good life to do something you love in a community that loves you. $1 million in College Station, again, you're going to have to buy a bunch of, I guess, shotguns to kill all the coyotes on your property, Lonni. It's scary out there. You don't know what's out in that because it's kind of deserty, and there's cactus, and there's just tumbleweed and dust, and and some barbecue restaurants, and you have to wear a cowboy hat. Like none of this is appealing, Lonni. So come on, get it together.
Michael Langston talking recruiting coming up right after this. We advertise it. We deliver it. It's warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. It's what we do. There's lots of us over at warchant.com. Michael Langston, king of the recruiting hill, over at warchant.com. Blitz is up on the website. You all should check it out. Michael, I'm just going to get right to it, man. I'm a little bit out of pocket over the Memorial Day weekend. Catch me up, man. Antavius Woody, we got some sort of information on him possibly. We've got a 4-star running back coming on campus here soon. Whole lots to get to, but Antavius Woody, first off, what do we know about this?
Yeah, first off, happy Memorial Day, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great Memorial Day. But, I got a tip that, Woody might be close to finish things up. So, and then I saw his Instagram post, and so I reached out to him, and he's like, look, I'm done. I'm good to go. I finished up this one class, and, I'm going to be at FSU on, June 20th. And, obviously, when we get these stuff, we check it with FSU, and usually they shoot it down right away. Obviously, they're keeping it quiet. They haven't said much, so that's usually a good sign that, hey, everything's kosher. They just don't want to say anything yet publicly, but everything it looks like he's going to be good to go. And the last commitment of the class looks like he's going to be enrolled on June 20th from everything I've seen.
Hopefully same day as Destin Hill, but we'll find that out when we get there as well. Antavius Woody, 4-star lineman out of Lafayette, Alabama, maybe Lafayette, maybe Lafayette, who knows. Is he offensive line, defensive line? He's listed as an offensive guard, but isn't Odell going to want to get him, or is Alex going to win the battle?
I think it's kind of the premise of the whole thing was he's coming as an offensive lineman. Okay. He had always told me offensive tackle, but I see him more as a center when I look at his game, although he's got the footwork to play tackle. Tackle's what he's always told me, but I guess that's the thing we'll find out when he gets here. But I was always told, we mentioned several prospects like Mekhi Lee, who's a JUCO kid, but always got from FSU that they preferred to have Woody. That was the one they wanted. That's the guy that, Atkins is really, high and sold on, and so I don't know how that affects Lee, if that visit will be canceled or not. We'll see, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do. But certainly, assuming this holds true that he enrolls on June 20th, it's a really big lift, and it kind of finishes off what was a incredible offensive line class for FSU in 2022.
All right, looking ahead to this week, I guess let's jump forward a little bit to this camp that's coming up this weekend. The mega camp's coming up. That's a little bit more of a kind of public goodwill service, if you will, that the Florida State program is doing. Several other programs are invited to come down here and scout out players that are coming from all across the I don't want to say the country, but I guess we could say the country right now. They got a little bit over 2,000 prospects I think are going to attend. But before that, the elite camp, June 4th, Saturday, Michael. I don't know if there's anybody on commit watch, but who are some of the guys that you're thinking maybe this could be a really crucial week for Florida State to make an impression and maybe at least get they're my leader out of some of these recruits?
Yeah, I think elite camp is certainly a great description. They ran it last year, I think in July that time, but this year I think guys like Jaylen Brown are going to be there. Wouldn't be surprised if Sam Singleton showed up, or we know Jordan Hall is going to be there. That's one I'm kind of keeping an eye on. That I think they could move to that leadership status, and Roderick Kearney. But I think it's all the top prospects I think that people have seen me mention, and we'll have a list soon as I get it confirmed with a full list. But I think it'll be all the major targets that we've discussed a lot. It will be interesting to see. Chris Parsons says he's going to be there. It'll be interesting to see if he's there because they just offered 2 prospects. So at quarterback. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic of how we've seen how it works. Aslan, when you offer a quarterback, it's that one position where people, quarterbacks just are different dudes, man. You just don't know how it's going to affect them. I mean, Parsons out there, telling people who's offering him now, which he's never done. So I think it's more of a ploy, but I still think I don't sense any problems overall from the FSU side of it. But it'll be interesting to see just all the guys. I know Lamont Green Jr. is going to be there. His dad hit me up this morning, told me he's definitely going to be there. So I think all the top guys that we've covered, and like I said, there'll be a full list on there. It's going to be a really extensive camp, probably around 50 kids, 50, very strong top targets. And once we have a full list, and I'll certainly have a breakdown and go through all that. But I think it's going to be a very good event.
All right, and then looking to the immediate future, the present, I guess. We're recording this on Sunday, everybody, or Monday, rather. You're listening to it all on Tuesday. Stacey Gage, 4-star running back out of IMG, 5'11", 210. You and Austin Cox able to kind of confirm that he'll be on campus today, Tuesday. What's that all about? 2024, though, so I guess maybe we should also temper our enthusiasm.
Yeah, Stacey's he's been wanting to get back to FSU. I think he was here last year, and I think he wanted to get back there. Really has a good relationship already with Ryan Bartow, and you have David Johnson. He also likes Norvell a lot, so I think it's more just to, kind of get another feel for FSU, and FSU is certainly one of his top schools. There's a lot of competition with, a lot of top schools like Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, all these schools. So gaming on campus certainly a big deal, and it's only going to start kind of what I expect in June, where it's going to be a massive flux of everyone's like, oh, it's slow. Well, it's not going to be slow for long, so there's going to be, this is kind of the heating up process where we get back to kind of what it was in the spring, where guys are here every day. And I think it's more of a, the check-in thing to see, if he still feels very highly about FSU. And I get the sense that he's going to probably narrow his list down some. So I think this will kind of help him do that. But certainly big news that he's going to be on campus tomorrow, and I will certainly get up with him once that visit's completed. But I think it's big news for FSU.
Exciting. High on Wednesday of 92, high of 91 on Thursday with rain, high of 91 with a 50% chance of rain on Friday. So hanging out front of the Moore is going to be awesome for you and everyone there, Michael. Can't wait for it. And, hey, before we let you go, we had a fun time out in Duval County. I think we were in Duval County mostly. I think Clay County for parts of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you 904 people. Stay off my back. I don't know geography all that well. But we got to hang out with, Jordan Hall. We also spoke to Sam Singleton, Big Rod Kearney. Those interviews are up right now. Kearney and Hall are up. Singleton should be up here in the next day or so, basically whenever I get to it. Just got back to town, everybody. Cut me some slack. Anything that, maybe stood out to you in talking to those 3 guys that you want to empty out that you maybe didn't get to? I mean, I'm sure you posted everything. You post everything that to our subscribers over on the Premium Recruiting Board, but maybe some of the folks that aren't subscribed and watch the videos and some of the stuff that maybe I left out that you think was important for them to maybe know about these 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, obviously, we just put up the Kearney one, so I'll throw a couple follow-up nuggets on the board. But the takeaway I had with all 3 of them is you still see that relationships are the king when it comes to FSU. You see that with all these kids. I mean, with Jordan Hall, it's Odell Hagens because they offered him so early. They've been on him. He is big on trust and loyalty. You really sense that when you're around Jordan, that's a big deal to him. And then And then with Kearney, I mean, he said it point blank, like, Coach Atkins is the coach that I'm closest with, that I like the best because he relates to me on a personal level. And Singleton the same way, just the way he feels a connection at FSU that's different than any other place. And he's certainly gone different places. And I think the third takeaway is for people that they're all hung on the NIL. It's like not every kid is like NIL strong that it's everything. It's a solid part of a recruitment, but with these kids just being around them, I don't sense that it's like the maybe major driving factor for them. Now, will they want to get a nice deal? I'm sure. And as I told people, I think FSU is going to be very competitive in that market. Are they going to throw the $8 million down? Probably not. But they're going to be very competitive. But I think people need to understand that a lot of these kids aren't like NIL driven. Like there's certain other topics that are just a little more important to them. And with these kids, I didn't really get a sense that NIL was like a driving factor in their recruitment.
All right, there you go, everybody. I don't know, Michael. I don't want to put more work on you, but I would assume we might have to do a recruiting show sometime this week. So maybe be prepared for that. And if we do have one of those, everybody come join us. Shan't you? Hopefully.
I appreciate the heads up.
Yeah, man, that's how we do it. All right, on behalf of everybody who helped out today, Michael, Tom, Corey, and myself, we thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.